Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Of course, back here with Wayne. Pretty exciting announcement. We're going to be talking Fred Olsen, but more technology partnership stuff. I know getting a lot of questions on, what does that really mean? But first things first, Wayne, how are you?
Great, Jason. How you doing?
Yeah, good, good. I know we've been, I don't know, we say teasing cruise lines for a while. There's been some breadcrumbs out there, and boom, Fred Olsen. Do you want to kind of intro the press release and kind of what this means, and we'll go over it in more detail?
Yeah, so I think that people have been, watching the news and seeing, that there's going to be a return to cruising. There have been a few false starts. There was a few dates that were set, and then the CDC or different governing bodies have moved those dates. So it's been a little bit hard to follow. Obviously, for the entire time, we've been working in the background with these companies to establish, different products and services that will help them get back to the seas. And this announcement is obviously the culmination of a lot of that effort that's been going on for the last few months behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, awesome. And really, it's not just, it seems like it's a, long-term thing, 2 years, technology agreement, kind of technology partner. Do you want to kind of walk through a little bit more on what that means? I know we're getting a lot of questions. Well, cool. Well, what is a technology partner? And kind of, again, extending that past COVID. I'm curious if you can go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. The idea behind a technology partnership is that the cruise ship companies are obviously, have to follow the CDC guidelines, but they also have, a responsibility and an obligation to the guest to give the guest the best experience possible. And so that means blending the concept of safety and security with the concepts of guest experience and making an enjoyable experience, and effectively making people forget that there was COVID or whatever's going on. So the technology partnership is really focused on how we make these devices, which they have to have, each passenger has to have with them, how we make them more than just something that is used for that safety and contact tracing, and more used for the guest experience, to make it better, to make people, to make everything easier on the ship. And so some of that might be integrating with the cabin doors, so that you can substitute our device for perhaps your room key. Makes it a little bit more useful, makes it sort of blend into what you're doing. Integrating with payment systems, integrating with other devices. It's really about having a wearable that's a universal, intelligent device that does a lot of things and helps that guest experience.
Yeah, interesting you say kind of, room keys and everything else. Curious, how relatable could this be to also, like a all-inclusive resort or like festival type wristband? Is that also kind of like how you would describe it? And, would I be too far?
No, so the first thing I would say is that we designed the devices to have all of the radio sets to effectively be future proof, so that we can push updates to our clients and have the new functionality just seamlessly roll out. Cruise ships are obviously the industry with the most acute need to sort of get back to business. And we see success and establishing sort of good use cases and case studies there as a jump off point to get involved with those bigger resorts, land-based resorts, music festivals, anything you think of. That those are all massive opportunities for TraceSafe.
Yeah, awesome. I kind of wanted to go over like the actual winning of the contract. Can you give any insight for, hey, why would a massive cruise line like this and very successful cruise line kind of pick TraceSafe compared to the other things out there? What went into like winning of the contract? Would love to kind of hear the story if possible.
Yeah, so I think every contract sort of starts off with a sales discussion, then a technical discussion, and then a proof of concept, and then sort of an expanded scope before we go into full production. Obviously, it's a high stakes situation to put the devices into live operations, and so we want to make sure we get it right. So we do these proof of concepts with a small number of devices, a small team. Sometimes that's involves us flying someone to the ships to sort of do training and deploy the devices. And then it's really about tuning the devices for the specific environments that they're in. You can imagine a cruise ship, we have a Bluetooth signal coming out of our device. We have situations where there's very narrow hallways, and then you have situations where they sort of expand into large scale rooms. You'd have a ballroom and then a narrow hallway, and a lot of the ships are made of stainless steel. So these are really challenging environments for radios to be operating in. But we've managed to get our devices really tuned in and operating at peak efficiency through these even really challenging environments, and that's all part of the POC and kind of that incremental rollout phase. So it does take a little bit of time. Obviously, it takes a little bit more time than the public markets often have patience for. But we're here to be working with our customers to make sure that they have a successful implementation and that everything goes off without a hitch for them.
Yeah, you mentioned, awesome that you guys, will fly someone there, do some proof of concept stuff. I guess, I know we saw kind of teasing. It seems like you have some team members in Florida, which, I guess, is definitely a cruise capital of the world in a lot of ways. Is that safe to say that's kind of what's happening now?
Yeah. So this these types of industry rollouts kind of happen, very slowly and then all at once. And so, once you get sort of these early successes, you can quickly become the de facto supplier for an entire industry. And so we're seeing a lot of momentum on the heels of two really solid announcements, and we continue to uh, just give a huge amount of effort from our team to deliver for the cruise lines, and we're working with some of the great companies out there to make sure they have the solution that works to get back to business.
Wow. Well, some great breadcrumbs, some great teasers there. Knock on wood for some cool things to come. But congratulations again on kind of winning this contract. I know we've talked about other things on the market, and maybe we can do a deeper dive into other companies or technologies that you guys are beating out in the future. But Wayne, thanks so much for joining. This was an awesome video.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.